My book is TOKE. It's a stoner comedy. It's about a bunch of college friends who get along after who meet again after a few years, and they get really big to the point where Vishnu at some point shows up and says, "We need you to save the world," and that's how they set off on the mission to save the world. And they meet a variety of characters, including two Japanese girls, Nikhil's um, love interest, who's a colleague of his, who may or may not be a zombie. So yeah, that's what the book is roughly about. It follows the trend of most stoner and zombie films in popular culture. You can take from like some of the inspirations for the book would include Harold and Kumar, Robert Rodriguez's Faculty. So yeah. Danny and Aman are best friends, and they've been stoners for a long time through college. Nikhil was always this prude in college, the narrator, protagonist of the novel. Nikhil was a straight-laced guy who's never been involved with all of this, but he's been their best friend for all the time through college, and now he's been working a serious IT job. At one point, he literally gives up when his project manager screams at him, and then he bails from office and heads straight to Danny and Aman's and decides to get baked for the first time. It wasn't decided that way actually. In fact, I didn't even know that they were going to save the world when I started writing the book. Originally, Nikhil, it just started one morning when I decided that I needed to write I hadn't written in a while, and I decided I needed to write a character properly. So I started writing the day in the life of Nikhil. So Nikhil wakes up, he he wakes up late, he barely makes up a breakfast, runs through the breakfast through his siblings and his parents, and heads straight to work. And and then suddenly two characters from a very old short story of mine called Two Fluorescent Pink Buttons, they suddenly seem to gate crash this novel. There were two stoners there, and I suddenly, when I was wondering who should Nikhil meet now when he's reached at this crescendo of pain, and suddenly I realized, okay, you need stoners at this point. So that's how Danny and Aman crashed this novel, and since then the adventure begins. I would like to say that this is targeted at anybody who's looking for a fun ride. When I was writing this book, the only thing I was looking for was once I'm done with this story and once I've worked this entire thing out, I want someone to just find a book somewhere, open the pages, go through it, and it'll take you. It's a small book, about 240 pages. It'll take you about like 4 hours to finish it. But as soon as you finish it, I want you to just shut the book and then say that I did not do anything constructive in the last 4 hours, but it was a hell lot of fun. Not run from people I know at all, actually. But but fiction writers always, that's what we do. We tend to bring up small quirks from many different people and try to make our character as real as possible. So I'm sure they have certain quirks from people I know, or certain quirks that I have, but yeah, nothing was taken from any of life. It was purely fictional. Well, research is very important in an author's life. I'll take this to an anecdote with my friends. When the book came out, and a whole bunch of my college friends and other friends picked the book up, and then they were reading the book. At a certain point, we were all hanging out, and I was just like, "So how was it?" And they're like, "We were deciding which to sit with colored markers and start marking the book based on what must have Jugal been on when he wrote this part." So, yeah. Originally, I was not looking at that. The whole thought of writing this book was fun, was to entertain myself, to entertain anybody who would read the book. But this is a question that's been coming up on and off again at different readings. I've been doing a lot of readings. I've always, the kind of writers I've grown up learning writing around with people over a period of time, and they always emphasize on doing readings, and so I've always fallen into this pattern of doing readings. Now that I'm doing readings, people ask me all these sorts of questions, and message is one of the, because I do a lot of them at colleges, so professors or principals or sometimes even students ask me what the message was. So in retrospect, when I think about it, I think the message was always just to experiment, to do something that makes you have fun, and then decide whether it's for you or not for you, but make sure you have fun with things first. I've been accused of this. A lot of people have said it draws too much from Western pop culture. I'm like, it's pop culture, it's been universal. You all watched Back to the Future, you all watched Terminator, you all watched Kung Fu movies while growing up. Come on, how many of Jackie Chan movies can you remember right now if I said Jackie Chan? So pop culture, it draws from there. So thankfully I haven't had to think of that's how I grew up. I didn't want to tell a story which I didn't know much about. So that's about it. The novel is set in Bombay. I spent a large chunk of my life in Bombay, and it's in a sort of way, all my characters are very much from Bombay. The way they speak, the colloquialisms used in the book. Uh, so city-wise, yeah, I grew up in Bombay. I did my engineering. I'm a computer engineer on paper. But after that, I've been working with media for a while. As in, I worked with gaming for a short while, and then I handled web and social media for Filmfare and Tehelka, and now I'm on a sabbatical of sorts. More than mythology, again, when I spoke about pop culture, we grew up with Mahabharata, my generation, as opposed to post-colonial. The question that was the earlier question was about post-colonialism. As opposed to that, my generation grew up on Mahabharata on TV. We used to watch every Sunday. Everybody used to sit down and watch that. So there was always some sort of the cultural relevance of that thing, and I had Vishnu straight from there. Like in my head when I was writing it, I really thought of Nitish Bharadwaj at that point. Like literally coming down and telling the kids that, listen guys, you need to get stoned and save the world. That's the funny angle, because when I was writing this, I was looking at what is going to entertain me the most. So at that point, when I just with the flow went ahead with Vishnu, and I said, okay, this is sounding funny. The entire flow of it is working. It's funny. But the same question I brought up to myself, saying if anybody's going to ever pull up any critical factor about why Vishnu, then it's going to be why not Shiva. So I started thinking about why not Shiva. And at that point, it just hit me that it's not Shiva's job to nurture the universe. If things are going wrong, he's just going to come and blow it all up and say, let's make another one. As opposed to that, Vishnu's job is to save the planet. So, as of now, honestly, I'm looking at trying to just get back to writing per se. Usually what ends up happening is that when you get a book out, you get stuck in the marketing part, the sales part, the packaging of it into a product. You see the book that you've written, which is slowly being turned into a product, and it's the design and all of that. You're concerned about that. So you kind of move away from writing that you've been doing. You might do a little bit of writing, but with me for a while I hadn't written in a while. So I guess I want to write as much as possible.